It was a quiet night on Earth. The stars were shining like diamonds in the black sky. Jacob, a lonely farmer, was sitting on his wooden porch, drinking warm tea. He had no family, no visitors, and no internet. Just a small house, some cows, and an old dog named Rusty. Suddenly, the sky changed. A strange blue light flashed above the forest behind his barn. It was not a shooting star. It was something else, something alive. Rusty barked and ran to the edge of the trees. Jacob stood up, confused. He felt a strange chill in the air. It wasn't fear exactly, but it wasn't peace either. He grabbed his flashlight and followed the dog. As he walked through the grass, he saw smoke. Something had crashed near his barn. He expected fire or metal or maybe a fallen plane. But instead, he found her, a small figure, curled up in the dirt. Shaking, she looked almost human, but not quite. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were too large. Her arms were thin like sticks, and she was barefoot. She looked up at him slowly and whispered, "Milk, please." Jacob blinked. He didn't understand at first. Then he realized this strange little girl, maybe 9 or 10 in human years, was begging, not for help, not for food, but just for milk. He nodded gently. "Okay, come with me," he said. She tried to stand, but her legs failed, so Jacob picked her up. She was light. To lighten and carried her to the house. Inside, he placed her gently on the couch. Rusty sat close, sniffing her butt, staying calm. Jacob poured a glass of milk and handed it to the girl. She grabbed it with both hands and drank like she hadn't eaten in days. Then she smiled, just a little. Jacob watched her silently. He had 1,000 questions. Where was she from? Why was she here? Was someone chasing her? But she looked so tired, so weak. He didn't ask anything that night. Instead, he gave her a blanket. She curled up on the couch and fell asleep within seconds. Outside, the stars kept shining. But Jacob could no longer see them the same way. The next morning, she was still asleep. Jacob made breakfast toast and eggs, but the girl only asked for more milk. He nodded and gave her a whole bottle. After drinking, she finally spoke more clearly. "My name." "Armali," she said, slowly. "I came from far. Very far." Jacob nodded again. "You're safe here," he said. "No one will hurt you." But Ramali looked nervous. "They looked for me," she said, eyes wide. "They want me back." "To kill me." Jacob's heart sank. This was not just a visitor from space. This was a fugitive, a scared little girl running from something deadly. He asked her why they wanted to hurt her. She shook her head and said, "Because I'm not like them. I ran away. They don't forgive." Days passed. Jacob didn't call the police. He didn't tell the news. He just gave her milk, food, and a safe place to rest. Armali began to heal. Her skin turned less pale. Her voice grew stronger. She even laughed once, just once, when Rusty chased his own tail. But one night, everything changed again. Jacob went to the barn to check on the animals. When he came back, she was gone. No note, no goodbye, just an empty couch and a glowing silver object left on the table. It looked like a small coin, but had strange symbols on it. It pulsed with light dim blue, then bright white, then silent. Again, Jacob picked it up and felt a soft vibration, like it was alive. He didn't understand it, but he kept it in a box under his bed. Years passed, no one ever came looking. No ships, no lights, no more alien girls. Only the memory of Armali, the starving girl from the stars, and the silver coin that never stopped glowing. Jacob tried to forget, but every night he looked up at the stars and wondered if she was still out there, if she remembered him, and if one day she would return not as a girl, but as something else. And then, one day, 10 years later, the sky opened again. 10 years had passed since the strange girl knocked on Jacob's door. 10 years since she begged for milk and disappeared into the stars. Jacob never forgot her. The silver coin she left behind still glowed softly in his drawer. Sometimes he dreamed of her lost, cold, or in danger. Other times he dreamed of war. It was a normal evening. The sky quiet, the farm still. Jacob was feeding Rusty, now old and slow. Suddenly, the wind stopped, the cows cried loudly, and birds flew away from the trees. Jacob looked up and saw the sky split open. A giant blue crack formed above the barn. Light poured down like a waterfall, and a ship descended from the sky. It was not a plane, not a drone, not anything from Earth. It was smooth, dark, and glowing with strange symbols, just like the coin. It landed gently, without noise, without smoke. Jacob stood frozen. Heart pounding, the ship opened slowly, and then she stepped out. Not a little girl, not hungry or afraid, but tall, strong, dressed in shining armor. Her skin still had that pale blue glow, and her eyes were bright like stars. It was Armalee. But she had changed, Jacob, she said, her voice clear and deep. He couldn't believe it. You remember me? He whispered. She smiled. I never forgot. They stood silently for a moment. Then she stepped forward and hugged him. He didn't expect that, but it felt real, like a family member coming home after a long war. You saved my life, she said. Now I return to repay the debt. Jacob blinked. Debt. She nodded. In my world, saving a life creates a life debt, but your kindness, it was more than that. It was a mercy no one had shown me before. Jacob still didn't understand. He just shook his head. You don't owe me anything. I was just being human. Armalee looked serious. That is exactly why the galaxy is. Watching you now, before Jacob could ask more, another crack opened in the sky. But this one was red, not blue. A second ship appeared, larger, darker. With sharp wings and red flames, alarms echoed inside Armalee's ship. Her smile disappeared. Replaced by urgency, they followed me, she said, stepping in front of Jacob. They want to punish Earth. Up, because of what I did, because I survived. Here, Jacob was confused and scared. Why? What did you do wrong? She looked down. I ran away from them, from the Varkari Empire. They ruled by fear, and they wanted me as a weapon. A deep hum filled the air. The second ship hovered above the barn, its lights scanning the area. Suddenly, a voice echoed. Across the sky, return the traitor or face extinction. Jacob's knees felt weak. What is this? He asked. Armalee pulled something from her belt. Looked like a small orb. She threw it to the ground, and a glowing shield rose around them. They can't touch us for now, she said, but we don't have much time. She turned to Jacob. You are now part of this, because you saved me, because you are human. The galaxy has rules, and one of them is called debt law. I claimed Earth as my refuge, and by doing that, I made your planet part of a galactic contract. Jacob tried to understand. So, Earth is in danger because I gave you milk. She nodded. Yes, and also because you showed mercy. The red ship fired something at the shield bright. Burning energy, the shield held, but cracked slightly. Armalee touched her wrist and spoke in her alien language. Her ship lit up and prepared for defense. Jacob, she said, I came to protect your planet, but I need you to come with me. You are now a witness to the debt, and the court will want to hear your voice. Court? Yes, she said. The Galactic Court. They must decide if Earth deserves protection or destruction. Jacob looked at the farm, his house, Rusty, the cows, the stars. Then he looked at hers, warrior who was once a starving girl. He took a deep breath and said, All right, take me with you. As they stepped into the ship, the shield shimmered and vanished. The Varkari ship hovered silently, watching, waiting. The stars above blinked as if warning what was to come. The door closed behind them. The ship lifted into the air, and Jacob's old life stayed far behind. He was no longer just a farmer. He was now a key to humanity's future. And beyond the stars, a galactic court was waiting. Jacob had never left Earth before. Now he was flying through space at a speed faster than light. He sat quietly inside Armali's ship, watching stars stretch like white lines through the dark. His hands were shaking a little, but he tried to stay calm. The small silver coin she had left years ago was now glowing in his pocket again. Armali stood near the control panel, focused. Her eyes moved quickly over alien symbols as she pressed glowing buttons. "Where are we going?" Jacob asked finally. She turned to him and said, "To the Galactic Court. It's the only place that can decide Earth's fate." Jacob frowned. "You mean? They can just decide to destroy us?" Armali nodded slowly. "Yes, if they believe. Your species is a danger to others." Jacob leaned back in the seat, feeling the weight of her words. "And if they decide we are not dangerous?" He asked. "Then Earth will be protected forever," she replied. "No empire can touch you again." He stayed silent after that. The stars outside didn't look beautiful anymore. They looked cold and far away, like the universe had eyes. And now it was staring at him. Hours passed, or maybe days, Jacob couldn't tell. Time felt strange in space. He slept for a while, then woke up as the ship slowed down. Armali came to sit beside him. "I want to tell you something before we arrive," she said. Jacob looked at her. "Go ahead. When I left Earth, I was captured. My people, my family had already been destroyed by the Varkari. I was supposed to be a weapon," she continued, "a living tool of war. But I ran, I hid, and you saved me. Because of that, I used an ancient law called the debt bond. I connected my life to yours, and to your planet." Jacob was silent. He didn't know what to say. "You risked everything for a glass of milk," he finally said. Armali smiled. "And you gave it to me without asking anything. That act is more powerful in the galaxy than you know." The ship stopped with a gentle hum. They had arrived. Outside the window was a massive structure floating in space. It looked like a spiral. City made of crystal and light. Ships of every shape and color moved around it. Some looked like giant insects, others like glowing stones. Jacob couldn't believe what he was seeing. "The Galactic Court," Armali said, "and we are expected." They walked through the airlock into a tunnel of soft blue light. Guards stood on each side, tall creatures in golden armor. They didn't speak, but bowed as Armali passed. Jacob followed closely, trying not to look nervous. They entered a chamber larger than any building Jacob had ever seen. Thousands of alien beings sat in floating seats, arranged in a circle. Some were huge and furry, some were small and glowing. All of them were watching Jacob. At the center of the room was a glowing platform. Armali stepped forward, and Jacob stood beside her. A voice echoed from above, deep and clear. "State your case." Armali raised her hand. "I am Armali of the Sithari people. One invoke the law of debt and protection. I was saved by this human when I was a child. He gave me shelter, food, and kindness. Because of him, I survived. I owe my life to Earth." The alien council murmured. Some looked curious, others skeptical. A tall creature with skin like glass spoke. "Kindness is not enough. Why should this species be spared? They are violent, primitive, and selfish." Jacob took a step forward, his heart beating fast. "I'm not perfect," he said, "and humans are not perfect either. But we care, we help. Even when we don't understand." I didn't know who she was. I just saw someone who needed help. That's what humans do. Not all of us, but enough of us. Another alien spoke, this one with 6 eyes and wings. "You are a farmer, not a leader. Why should your actions matter to the fate of..." Your planet. Jacob nodded. Maybe I'm not special. But if someone like me, a simple man, can do the right thing, then maybe Earth deserves a chance. Romali touched his shoulder. He speaks with truth, she said. His kindness saved a future leader of my people. And now, I offer our alliance to protect Earth. The council grew quiet. Then a new voice echoed through the chamber, one Jacob hadn't heard yet. It was old, tired, but strong. I was once captured by humans, the voice said. Everyone turned to see a large Varkari soldier standing at the edge of the court. He removed his helmet, showing scars on his face. I was injured, weak, and expected to die, he continued. But a group of human soldiers took me in, treated my wounds. They didn't have tooth, they were my enemies, but they showed mercy. The chamber fell silent again. The old soldier looked at Jacob. Perhaps the humans are not what we believed. He said, perhaps there is more to them. The council began to whisper. Lights above them flashed in colors Jacob didn't understand. Finally, the deep voice returned. We will vote, it said. But be warned, some forces do not care for votes, even if Earth is spared. Others may still attack. Romali nodded. Let them come. We are ready to defend what matters, as they left the chamber. Jacob felt lightheaded. So much had happened so fast. He looked at Romali. Do you think they'll spare Earth? She gave a small smile. I hope so. But the Varkari do not follow laws, they follow power. Just then, a loud alarm rang through the station. A red warning flashed above Varkari fleet incoming, the voice said. They are not waiting for a decision. Jacob's heart dropped. The war had already begun. Alarms echoed across the glowing walls of the Galactic court. Red lights flashed, warning everyone. Varkari fleet approaching. The voice repeated. All ships prepare for emergency protocols. Jacob stood frozen in the center of the courtroom. He had just spoken in front of thousands of aliens. Now, the enemy was here ready to attack before the court could decide. Romali grabbed his arm. Her voice calm but sharp. We need to move. Now, they ran down the shining hallways, past guards and diplomats. The whole station shook as if thunder was rolling through space. Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. He had never been in a war, never held a weapon. He was just a farmer. But now, he was part of something far bigger than his world. Inside the ship, Romali quickly took her position at the controls. Jacob sat beside her, strapping in. He saw other ships outside the window, all rushing to form a protective circle around the court. But the Varkari fleet was massive, dark, sharp. Red glowing ships spread across the stars like a swarm of hornets. They didn't wait for the vote, Jacob said quietly. Romali nodded. They never planned to. They want to show that no law can stop them. Then, what's the point of the court? Jacob asked. She looked at him, her eyes full of fire. The court shows what's right. But some only care about power. A message appeared on the screen. It was from the Galactic Council, Romali. You and the human are to evacuate immediately. The court is under threat, but Earth has not been forgotten. But Romali didn't leave. She touched a button and opened a private channel. Listen to me, she said to the council. If Earth falls, it will be because you allowed it. I offered alliance, truth, and history. But the Varkari only. Bring death. There was silence for a moment. Then a council member replied. Earth is not under our protection yet. If you defend it now, you do so alone. Romali closed the message. She looked at Jacob, her jaw tight. I'm not leaving you, she said. I'm not leaving Earth. Jacob swallowed hard. Then we fight, he said. The ship turned and flew away from the court station. Toward Earth, toward danger. Romali sent out a call to her people, those who still followed her. Ships from distant corners of the galaxy began to answer. Small, fast, hidden fighters appeared one by one. A rebel fleet. "You inspired them," she said, looking at Jacob. "You showed them that humans can be kind, and that kindness can lead to strength." As they entered Earth's orbit, panic had already started. Governments were sending alerts, cities were locking down, people were scared, no one knew what was coming. But above the clouds, Jacob saw it, a wall of Varkari ships, black and red, blocking the sunlight like a storm of metal and fire. Armali opened a channel to Earth's leaders. "This is Princess Armali of the Sithari Rebellion," she said. "I speak on behalf of Earth's protector. Jacob and I offer alliance." The world leaders were shocked, some refused, afraid. But one voice finally answered, an older general, tough and calm. "If you fight for Earth, we fight with you." And so, the defense began. Earth's old satellites became weapons. Military jets flew beside alien ships. Humans and aliens stood side by side for the first time in history. It was not just a battle for one world. It was a battle to prove that mercy could still survive. In a cruel galaxy, Jacob stayed in the command center, watching maps, signals, and messages. He wasn't a soldier, but he understood farming, patterns, timing, strategy. He used those instincts to help predict the enemy's moves, and slowly, their defenses began to hold. But then, something terrible happened. One of Earth's major cities was hit. A Varkari superweapon burned half the sky. Millions were in danger, and the shield systems were failing. Armali's voice broke through the noise. "There's only one way to stop it," she said. "We need to activate the bond gate. It's an ancient Sithari device, hidden near Earth's moon. It can block the Varkari fleet. But it needs to keys mine and yours." "Why mine?" Jacob asked. "Because you're the reason I live. The bond is between us." They rushed to the device, an old, floating structure made of stone and light. Varkari ships chased them, firing wildly. One shot hit the side of their ship. Sparks flew, alarms screamed, but they made it, inside the bond gate. Two circles waited, glowing softly. Romilly stepped into one, Jacob into the other. He felt a strange warmth, as if something was reading his memories, his emotions. He saw her years ago. Cold and starving, he saw her smile when she first drank milk. He saw her grow into a warrior, and she saw him, his kindness, his loneliness, his strength. The bond was real. The gate activated. Sending out a wave of energy, the Varkari ships froze, confused. Then the gate released a burst of light, pure, blinding light that pushed the fleet back. Some ships exploded, others retreated. The battle was not over, but Earth had won time. As the light faded, Jacob collapsed. Armali caught him, holding him gently. "You did it," she whispered. "No," he said weakly. "We did it, back on Earth." People looked up and cheered. They didn't understand everything, but they knew. Someone had saved them. A man and a girl from the stars. Asterisk. The bond gate had stopped the attack for now. But Jacob and Romilly both knew the Varkari were not finished. They had pulled back, but they had not surrendered. This was only the beginning. Inside the ship, Jacob sat with a bandage on his forehead. His hands still shook from the power of the bond gate. He looked out at the Earth, floating like a blue marble in space. It looked peaceful. But war had arrived at its doorstep. Romilly stood near the control panel, watching enemy ship movements. On a glowing map, her voice was calm, but her eyes were sharp. "The Varkari are regrouping," she said. "They will return, stronger and angrier." Jacob nodded. "Then we need to be ready." Across Earth, the news of the attack spread like wildfire. People in every country looked up at the sky with fear and questions. Leaders held emergency meetings. Armies prepared weapons, but there was still doubt. How could humans fight an empire from the stars? Romilly didn't wait. She sent a message to all her remaining allies in the galaxy. Some were rebels, some were exiles. Some were secret supporters hiding from the Varkari, and they answered, within days, dozens of ships arrived near Earth. Strange, beautiful, and powerful ships, each one from a different planet. Their captains greeted our Molly with respect, and Jacob with quiet awe, the farmer who had changed the future. In a hidden base beneath the mountains, Earth and the aliens worked together. Jacob was brought into a large command center. Screens showed maps of Earth and space. Blinking lights marked danger zones. Scientists and soldiers stood together, planning defenses. Jacob had never seen anything like it. General Carter, a tall, strong man with a gray beard, walked over to him. "You're the one she trusts," the general said. "So, I trust you too." Jacob smiled nervously. "I'm still learning. We all are," the general replied. "But we don't have time. The Varkari will strike soon." Our Molly joined them, carrying a small device. "This is a shadow beacon," she explained. "They use it to hide their fleet. If we can track the signal, we can find where they're gathering and hit them before they hit us." A team of human and alien engineers worked together to unlock the signal. Jacob watched them, amazed at how quickly they learned from each other. The beacon finally showed. "Coordinates an asteroid field near Saturn. That's where the enemy was hiding." "We should strike first," said Romilly. "They won't expect Earth to fight back." "But we're not ready," said one of the Earth commanders. "Our weapons aren't strong enough." Jacob stepped forward. "We have something stronger." He said, "Unity. The Varkari don't believe we can work together. Let's prove them wrong." The decision was made. An Alliance fleet would launch a surprise attack on the asteroid field. Jacob would go to not as a soldier, but as a symbol, the man who gave the alien girl milk. Now flying with a fleet of warriors, the night before launch, Jacob sat alone on the observation deck. He looked out at the stars, thinking about his old life, the farm, the cows, the porch, and Rusty. So much had changed. Our Molly joined him. Sitting quietly beside him, "You should rest," she said softly. Jacob nodded. "I just never thought I'd be here." "You were meant to be," she said. "You showed the galaxy something it forgot, kindness, and that's why they fear you." Jacob looked at her. "Do you think we'll win?" She didn't answer right away. "We have to," she finally said, "or Earth will burn." The next day, the fleet moved. Earth's sky lit up with ships rising into orbit. Humans watched from the ground, hoping, praying. The Alliance fleet entered warp speed, heading toward Saturn inside the command ship. Jacob stood beside our Molly as they approached the asteroid field. The screen showed the enemy fleet hiding among the rocks, huge Varkari battleships waiting. "In silence, we'll hit their communication center first," our Molly said, "if they can't speak to each other. They can't fight as a unit." The battle began in a flash. Alliance ships darted through the field, firing beams and missiles. The Varkari responded quickly, their red weapons cutting through the darkness. Explosions rocked space. Jacob held his seat tightly, the ship shaking as alarms rang. Our Molly shouted orders in both English and her own language. Her voice calm, her aim perfect. A massive Varkari cruiser appeared in front of them. Twice the size of their ship, it opened fire. The blast hit their shields. Shaking the command center, Jacob fell to the floor, but Romilly pulled him up. "We have one chance," she said. She turned the ship sharply and flew straight toward the cruiser. Jacob's eyes widened. "Are you crazy?" "Trust me," she said with a smile. She released a special pulse weapon, something built using Earth tech and alien energy. It hit the cruiser in the center, piercing its heart. The ship exploded in silence, metal burning without fire. Cheers filled the command ship, but the battle wasn't over. Another wave of Varkari ships entered the field. Then something amazing happened. One by one, neutral ships appeared on the edges of the battlefield. They were from planets that had refused to choose sides before. Now, they had seen Earth fight with honor. They had seen a human stand with an alien princess, and they had chosen to join. The battlefield shifted. The alliance grew stronger. The Varkari began to fall back. The battle lasted for hours, but in the end, the alliance stood victorious. Earth was still breathing, still shining in the dark. Back on the ship, Jacob sat quietly, tired but proud. Romali looked at him, her voice soft. "You were never just a farmer," she said. "You're a protector now." He smiled weakly. "Then let's protect what matters." But far away, in the darkest part of the galaxy, a shadow was watching, and it was not pleased. The stars were quiet after the battle near Saturn. But Jacob knew it was only the eye of the storm. The Varkari had pulled back, but they had not disappeared. They were angry now, more than ever, and they were coming for Earth, inside the Alliance. Command base, built deep under the Rocky Mountains. Jacob stood in front of a giant screen, watching as new enemy ships moved closer to Earth. Red dots filled the map like blood spots. They're sending everything they have. General Carter said, arms crossed, a full invasion. Armali stood beside Jacob, calm but serious. This is their final move. She said, if we lose here, Earth will fall, and every planet that joined us will fall next. The Alliance fleet was strong, but tired. They had just won a battle, but now they faced a war. Earth had activated its global defenses missile systems, satellite, weapons, underground bunkers. Civilians were moved to shelters. The world had never been so united. Yet so afraid. Jacob looked at the sky. He remembered the quiet nights on his farm. He remembered the girl who asked for milk. And now, that same girl was leading fleets into battle to save the planet he loved. The countdown began. The Varkari fleet would enter Earth's orbit in 12 hours. 12 hours to prepare for the biggest fight in human history, inside the war room. Leaders from different planets stood around the table. Some were tall and glowing, others small and robotic. All of them listened as Romali pointed at the map. "We split their forces," she said. "Their front line will attack Earth. Their support ships will stay back, hiding behind their mothership. If we destroy that mothership, the others will fall into confusion." Jacob asked, "Can we reach it?" Armali nodded. "Yes, but only if someone guides a ship through their shield wall." General Carter stepped forward. "I'll send my best pilots." Armali looked at Jacob, then shook her head. "No," she said. "It must be someone. They don't expect someone who can carry the key." Jacob felt the room go quiet. "What key?" he asked. Armali opened a small case. Inside was a crystal, glowing white and blue. "This is the Heartstone," she said. "It's connected to the bond gate, and to me. If placed inside the Varkari mothership, it will overload their systems." Jacob stared at the crystal. "You want me to take it?" "Yes," she said. "You and I will go together." Everyone objected. "You can't send him," said Carter. "He's not a soldier. He's more than that," Armali replied. "He's the reason we're all here." The decision was made. Jacob and Armali would fly a stealth ship directly into the heart of the enemy fleet. Their goal? Plant the Heartstone and destroy the mothership from within. As the enemy approached, skies around Earth lit up. Cities turned off their lights. Satellites sent final warnings all across the globe. People held their breath. The war began with fire. The Varkari ships rained lasers and missiles from the sky. Earth's defenses answered with everything they had. Explosions painted the sky red and orange above the chaos. The Alliance fleet fought back with speed and power, while the main battle raged. Jacob and Armali flew through the shadows. Their ship was silent, invisible, moving between enemy lines. Inside, Jacob held the Heartstone close. It pulsed softly, as if alive. "Are you afraid?" Armali asked. Jacob nodded. "Yes, but I'm more afraid of what happens if we fail." They reached the mothership, a massive structure, like a floating mountain. Red lights blinked across its surface. Dozens of Varkari ships surrounded it. Like guards, we have one chance, Armali said. She pushed the ship into a steep dive. Flying straight through the enemy lines, alarms screamed, red beams missed them by inches. Finally, they crashed through a weak point and entered the ship's core. Inside, the ship was dark and cold. Metal walls pulsed with energy. They ran down the silent hallways, heading toward the engine room. Suddenly, a group of Varkari soldiers appeared, tall, armored, armed with energy blades. Ramali drew her weapon. "Go," she said to Jacob. "Find the engine. I'll hold them off." "No," Jacob said. "We do this together." They fought side by side. Ramali moved like a dancer. Striking fast and clean, Jacob used a stolen blaster, clumsy but brave. They pushed forward, step by step, until they reached the core. The engine was huge, glowing with red light. Jacob pulled out the heartstone, his hands shaking. "It must go in here," Armali said, pointing to a socket in the center. As he placed it inside, the ship began to shake. Lights flashed, walls cracked. The heartstone lit up like a small sun. Armali grabbed Jacob's hand. "We have to run." They ran back to their ship as the mothership exploded from the inside. Pieces of metal flew in every direction. Outside, the enemy fleet stopped moving. Confused, leaderless, the Alliance fleet took the chance and attacked hard. One by one, the enemy ships fell. Some tried to escape, others surrendered. The war was over. Back on Earth, people filled the streets. They looked at the sky, cheering, crying, holding hands. Not just because they were alive, but because they had won something bigger. Hope. In the Alliance base, Jacob and Armali returned, tired, wounded, but smiling. Leaders from every world clapped for them. Jacob looked around and whispered, "I just gave her milk and changed the galaxy," Armali said with a smile. But in the far reaches of space, hidden in the dark, one last threat still waited. Watching, waiting, planning. The galaxy was not safe yet. The war was over. The sky above Earth was quiet once again. No red enemy ships, no fire, no alarms, just peace, soft and strange. Like the silence after a storm, Jacob sat in the command center, tired but alive. Bandages wrapped his arms, and there were bruises on his face, but he was smiling across the room. People cheered, aliens hugged, and screens showed Earth cities lighting up in celebration. It was victory hard-earned and unforgettable. Ramali stood by the window, looking at the stars. Her armor was scratched, her hair was messy, but her eyes were bright. She had fought not just for her life, but for a planet that once gave her milk and warmth when she had nothing. Now she had everything, but she still remembered the barn, the blanket, and the glass in her shaking hands. Jacob walked over, slow but steady. "You did it," he said. Armali shook her head. "No, we did it." She smiled at him. "You changed my life, and because of you, Earth now has a voice in the galaxy." The Galactic Council sent a message, a formal recording that echoed through every corner of the Alliance base, by vote and law. The Earth is now protected under Galactic Treaty 1-B. No hostile force shall invade, harm, or interfere with Earth's freedom. The debt is paid, and the bond is honored. Jacob listened in silence. He never asked for any of this, but now he was part of something bigger than crops and cows. He was known across galaxies as the kind one, the human who didn't turn away from a starving alien girl. The following weeks were full of work. Earth's leaders began talks with alien worlds. Scientists exchanged knowledge. Doctors shared medicine. Students spoke with beings from other planets. A new chapter had begun. But in the middle of all this, Jacob made a decision. He walked up to General Carter and said, "I want to go home. Carter raised an eyebrow. You sure? You're a hero now. You could lead, teach, even fly to other worlds. Jacob smiled. I don't need a spotlight. I just want my porch, my cows, and maybe a peaceful night sky. Carter nodded. You've earned that. Before he left, Romali met him in the hangar. She held a small silver box and placed it in his hands. This is a stardust seed, she explained. Plant it on your farm. In time, it will grow into something different, something Earth has never seen, but it will remind you of me. Jacob nodded, not trusting his voice. And you? He asked. Romali looked up at the stars. I'll rebuild my people, she said. The Sithari will rise again, not for war, but for peace. He took a deep breath, then pulled her into a hug. She froze at first, then slowly returned it. This was not the goodbye of a soldier and a captain. It was a goodbye between two souls who had saved each other. The ship dropped Jacob near his farm. Everything looked the same. The wooden house, the old barn, the windmill turning slow. Rusty was gone now. But his spirit still lived in the quiet field. Jacob placed the stardust seed in the soil behind the barn, right where he had first found her. He watered it gently and whispered, "Grow well." Seasons passed, and the world changed. People told stories about the Great War, about the alien girl and the farmer. Children in schools learned how kindness saved Earth, and how one glass of milk changed the stars. Jacob didn't seek fame, but visitors came, sometimes from faraway planets. They didn't ask for selfies or gifts. They just wanted to meet the man who showed mercy. He offered them tea and told simple stories about cows, storms, and soil, and they listened with wonder. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Jacob sat on his porch, rocking gently. In his old chair, a soft breeze touched his face, and a strange scent floated in the air, sweet, sharp, and unknown. He walked behind the barn and saw something new. The seed had grown into a tree unlike anything on Earth. Its bark shimmered silver, and its leaves glowed like stars at the center. A small blue fruit was growing, glowing softly. He smiled and touched the trunk gently. It felt warm like a heartbeat. A gift from the stars, rooted in Earth, just like her. Suddenly, a voice spoke behind him. You always knew how to grow good things. Jacob turned quickly, and there she was. Romali, older now, but still the same light in her eyes. She was dressed in peaceful robes, no armor, no weapons. She stepped forward and held out her hand. I came back, she said, because now I owe you nothing, but I still care. Jacob didn't speak for a moment. Then he laughed softly. I never wanted a debt. I just saw someone who needed help, and that, she said, is why you are the greatest soul I've ever met. They sat under the glowing tree, sharing quiet. No war, no ships, no councils. Just the sound of leaves, wind, and the stars slowly blinking into the night sky. And somewhere far above, across space and time, a new generation of beings studied history. They read about war and heroes, battles and politics. But the story they loved most was simpler starving alien girl, a kind farmer, and a glass of milk that saved the world.